Blood, Guts, and Bluray is part of Court and Parts,
podcast network featuring pop culture, TV, movie, and geek podcasts. Check out some of our other shows: Geek Gravy, We Got 5, TV Ate My Brain, and Get Real Movies at courtandparts.com.
Coming to you undead from Elm Street in fictional Haddonfield with a beautiful view of Crystal Lake, the podcast where every day is Friday the 13th and every night is Halloween. You are listening to Blood, Guts, and Bluray, part of the Core Temp Arts Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Bloodbath, Bub, and Brett 667, the neighbor of the beast.
Blood, Guts, and Bluray is the official horror movie podcast of Core Temp Arts, your one-stop shop for movie and geek podcasts, including but not limited to TV Ate My Brain, Talking Shondaland, Let's Chat, and Failure to Launch, plus so many more. You can listen to us on YouTube, TuneIn, Stitcher, Google Play, and of course, iTunes. Beautiful Bride of Bloodbath is who you just heard. Music, of course, is provided by Nightbirds and the Slasher Film Festival Strategy. And speaking of music, my Halloween playlist is up on Spotify. So search me, Bloodbath Birdsey, to follow my creepy crawly Halloween playlist. And because I'm such a swell guy, I'll be keeping it up all year and adding to it as necessary. My name is Bloodbath.
And I'm Brett 667, the neighbor of the beast.
And I'm Bub.
This is a bit of a bittersweet episode because it will be my last episode recording from Virginia Beach. I've been living in town here for just over 4 years, and I'm ready to move to the greener pastures of Connecticut, but not before a detour to the deep south first, where hope goes to get murdered like a cocky teenager in a slasher film. We have a great show for you today. This is Blood, Guts, and Bluray number 18 and part 4 of our Halloween countdown for 2016. The boys from the Knuckleheads podcast say that they cozy up to the Saw films for Halloween, and we want to thank them for letting us know. Also, the episode of Film Pasture with me as guest discussing some underrated horror films is now available on iTunes. So much fun. Thank you guys for having me as your guest. And if you don't know, I'm also covering the Exorcist series with Tommy Viet King Kong Cash for TV Ate My Brain. So get into it the same way that Bub is going to get into Killer News.
It's that time again. It's Killer News with Bub on Blood, Guts, and Bluray.
All right, so this week, yesterday was Bela Lugosi's birthday, right? So I figured we start this off with a little Dracula thing, you know? So Airbnb are holding a contest sponsored by Bram Stoker's great-nephew, Dacre Stoker, to put you up in Bran Castle. So this is like basically the castle that inspired Bram Stoker to write about Dracula. So basically the way the contest goes is you would write an essay of 50 to 500 words on what you would say to Dracula if you met him. How crazy is that? And you know, if he likes it, they put you up in the castle for the night.
What would you say?
I don't know, man. I'd be like, get the fuck away from me. How many words is that? 6 words. 6 words. It counts.
Well, wait. What were the parameters? How many words does it have to be?
5 to 500, man.
Jesus.
Keep it short and sweet. What would you say, Bloodbath?
I don't know. I'd probably make some Nosferatu joke. Brett, what would you say?
Who the fuck is Dracula, and can I live in your castle?
That is terrible.
Yeah, exactly. Just to be a douche.
What else you got there, Bob?
Do you have tickets for the Justin Bieber show?
Right?
That's
I'm
funny.
Gonna win.
I'm gonna submit that shit.
I don't know. I'd want to do that. You know, it's like a 57-room castle. you know, and you get to spend the night, and supposedly they bring you in like horse and carriage style through Transylvania.
Yeah, I just want to go to Transylvania. I mean, that's really about it. We have to record there. We have to record... Where else do we say we're going to record? Like Sweden or something, right? And then... Yeah, we have a bunch of location spots that we need to go to. We're going to do a little family vacation.
I'm down.
And we were saying Texas, that Texas Chainsaw Massacre
absolutely.
thing.
That's correct.
They just made that like a hot spot. You can camp there.
Yeah, we need to do that.
All right, so that brings me to my second thing. The new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie that's coming out. Did you guys hear about that?
I did not hear about it. Tell me all about it, though.
All right, so they're coming out with a new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. I'm not sure if it's next year or 2018, but it's going to be called Leatherface. It's just called Leatherface.
I did hear about that.
And yeah, so basically, it's almost like the prequel to those movies. Which all it shows on the cover is just like a pool of water in like a basement with a pair of dirty shoes, and you can tell they're like a pair of kids' legs. It looks pretty eerie.
Well, I mean,
so this week,
of course, no matter how bad the reviews are, I'm still gonna see it, like on principle. I have to see it.
I mean, yeah. I mean, this week, I guess the Motion Picture Association just gave it an R rating. So I mean, I don't see how they could give it anything but an R rating, or it would probably be terrible, But the only thing that gets me is that Stephen Dwarf guy's in it.
I love Stephen Dwarf.
Do you?
Yeah. The Gate?
I don't know.
He's great. Blade?
And those e-cigarette commercials?
He's
blue.
He's in those?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I know. Every time I see him now, I'm like, well, that's what that guy's doing. Maybe he'll bring it back, though. Hey, do Leatherface, man. It'll be good.
Yeah, you know that Tobe Hooper wanted that movie to be PG, right?
No.
Like the original? Because there's no blood in it. There's barely any blood at all. The only part, he called the MPAA and said, how can I get a PG rating and also in the movie put somebody on a meat hook?
That's what I was gonna say. It's implied. It's implied that there's
like,
there's meat hooks all over the place.
You can't. But yeah. All right. Well, I mean, on principle alone, I will see it. So I wish Chop Top was in it. That would be awesome.
I mean, he's probably not, but I mean, who's to say? It's too early. They're not really telling you too much about it.
Rain, 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 rain. Music is my life. I love that part. It's one of my favorite parts in any movie. And the second one is not good, but that part,
I enjoyed it.
He's amazing in that movie. He's so fucking funny in that movie.
Oh yeah.
What else you got?
All right, and my last thing is Night of the Living Dead is getting a 4K resolution remaster, and the Museum of Modern Art will be showing it next month on November 5th at 8 p.m. So I guess they helped put together this like 4K like remaster thing, and George Romero is going to be there to introduce it before they play the movie.
Interesting.
I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Road trip.
Right?
Road trip. I'll be in a road trip of my own during that time, so can't make that one. That's a bummer, though.
Yours might be scarier.
Yeah, it might be scarier. So, all right. Well, now I have Leatherface on the brain now, so you guys are gonna have to deal with that.
You are listening to Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray. Let us know what you think by reaching out to us. We can be found on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, or Facebook by simply searching Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray. To suggest a film or trailer you think we should discuss, or to comment on this or any other episode, send an email to bloodgutsandbluray@gmail.com. We will always get back to you. Thank you for listening to Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray, and enjoy the rest of the show.
The year was 1984.
What are you doing out here? The dance is inside.
And these kids
Yes! Got us arrived.
As if.
were ready to party.
They went AWOL.
But then, this field trip took a dark turn.
We're out of gas.
No one lives there. Let's dump.
Split up and look around.
Must have been a slaughterhouse. This place is so gross.
Hey, come on.
Is that made from people?
I think I heard about this place. You guys heard of the Jones?
They were cannibals. It's just a story to scare kids. What was that?
Sound like somebody screaming.
Should we go check it out?
Okay, yeah, you go. I'm just gonna find my glass. I'll be right behind you.
Guys, where's Toby? Oh, God. The killer's using Toby as bait.
Come on, man! Go! Go!
What the hell happened out there?
We need to start figuring out a way to get out of here alive.
We have to get back to the bus!
It's okay to be afraid in the dark. Just don't get
We gotta get out of here!
lost after dark. And you thought the 80s were dead.
All right. So first, we're going to talk about Lost After Dark. It was released in 2015, directed by Ian Kesner. There's 12 dead, no real naughty count. I didn't have a lot of time to go too far down the rabbit hole to find the budget and the box office for this. It was actually kind of hard to find. So with that being said, Brett, go ahead and hook me up with the synopsis.
All right, so obviously this movie is meant to be an homage to the classic 80s slashers, and it does seem to aim primarily at the ones that weren't very good. It involves a group of random teenagers from your pot-smoking nerd to your jocks to your popular girls and your non-popular girls, all steal a school bus from Robert Patrick himself and go off to one of the friends, Lori's cabin that she stole the keys of her father to. Of course, the bus breaks down, and none of them are bus technicians, so they end up finding themselves embroiled in the middle of a cannibalistic human being that is hunting them down and feasting on their sweet little flesh, and they have to fight to try and survive and get towards day so that they can find a way to get out.
Very good. Super 80s movie. Super 80s. Very tropish. We have an asshole, a jock, a black guy, a nerd that's a fat geek, a slut, a prude, a best friend, a BFF that's somewhere in between those two things, and a punk goth hybrid. And somehow they're all friends. Weirdly enough, every male victim is named after a slasher film director. You have Wes Craven, Johnny Carpenter, Toby Hooper, and Sean Cunningham. And every female is named after a final girl actress from those classics. So Heather Langenkamp, Heather Langenkamp, Jamie Lee Curtis, Marilyn Burns, and Adrienne King. So I thought that was a nice little tip of the hat. I liked it.
I never put that together. That's awesome.
I didn't know that until I didn't put it together until I looked at it on IMDb. That was literally the only trivia fact.
I was gonna say that. That's like the only trivia fact for that movie on that website.
I was surprised. I thought there'd be a lot more out on this movie other than mediocre ratings and that little snippet. There wasn't a whole lot about it.
There wasn't even anything really on Rotten Tomatoes. I kind of dug around afterwards and other than people going meh the entire time, there's really not much information.
It's slightly above meh for me.
Oh yeah.
It's just it's a little bit above meh. there are parts of it that I really, really liked. I thought that the kid who played Toby, who was like the nerd, was probably the most natural and believable character in the whole film.
Absolutely my favorite character.
I loved him. I thought he was great. I put a ham radio together by myself when I was 10. I think I could figure out a spark plug. Like, that's... I thought that was pretty cool. So I dropped the ball on this movie, though, because I forgot that it takes place, like, during the spring. But you have to admit, it sort of feels like a movie you watch during Halloween. I think that the setting being Michigan gives it that feeling, you know? Like anything that, you know, in the Midwest, it almost always feels like Halloween, unless it's snowing like crazy. I lived in Chicago for about a year and a half, and if it's not like that fall type weather, it feels like it's the most frigid, windy, awful that you've ever felt in your life. But for some reason I love it. So sorry about that. One of my biggest problems with this movie is the killer.
Yeah.
He looks like a Guy Cocaine Man.
Oh my god, I totally thought that. And I wanted to say it to you guys, and I was like, they're just gonna be like, he's annoying.
He's so Junior Joe is so nondescript that it just doesn't make him scary at all. And I kept thinking of like the original Hills Have Eyes and how fucking weird and funny and crazy they all looked, and without pushing it too far. And to have this movie, yes, obviously it's replicating the olden days, but just to put a hat on a dude with a beard, I was like, this guy sucks.
Oh, totally. He looked like the Michael Myers from the second Rob Zombie Halloween. You know? Like, because he's basically unmasked and just like a vagrant that lives out in the woods and eats dogs.
And that's not great. I'm just gonna put that out there. That's not a great move.
No.
No one likes that. No
one. You're not gonna win. You're not gonna win anybody over with that.
I mean, you know who did it kind of good? Cabin in the Woods. They kind of had that feel when those people were coming back.
Yeah.
Cabin in the Woods is it's an incredible film.
I love it.
I love it.
It's a game.
And everybody is great in that movie. Every single person is good.
So fucking good. And just all the twists and turns and how they kind of... Yeah, that's a great fucking movie.
But that's what it reminded me of when they get to that cabin and then, like, they're, like, you know, reading the things and stuff. And then, like, you know, that father comes back. He had that vibe to him. Yeah,
absolutely. I loved Robert Patrick in this movie, too. I thought he was great. He tied the whole movie together. He's the star power. These are basically unknowns. I like actually how they casted like young amateur actors to act young and amateurish. I think that was a very natural thing. If they cast it was like even like, you know, medium famed, for lack of a better word, actors to take on these roles, I don't think it would have been nearly as good. I think it made it, you know, that much more believable that I've never seen any of these kids ever before. And
when you mentioned Robert Patrick, his quotes are great, and there's one thing he says something right before it cuts, and I can't remember what it was. It was just a normal statement, but it was so fucking funny the way he delivered it. But he's got the best fucking quote of the movie with the whole, "I was in Nam, you sick fuck, and I got chunks of guys like you in my stool." Like, I died fucking laughing.
The whole movie, like, when they pull away with the school bus, he's like, "They went AWOL."
I don't even think that was the best line. I think the best line was, back when men were men and women knew it. That was so funny. I say that to my wife now because of this movie.
Bet she loves that.
Oh, she loves it, especially when we're bossing each other around with this move. It's been hectic. We're doing the best we can right now to not get on each other's nerves, because the last time we moved, which was like 2 years ago, we moved into the apartment that we're living in now, and it was terrible. They literally painted over electrical sockets, and
I love when they do that shit.
It just was awful. And so the move was hectic, and we're just finding out she was pregnant, and the apartment wasn't right. It was just a nightmare. And moving is always stressful, and moving a family is going to be stressful. So we're just trying to do the best we can to make it as easy on ourselves as we possibly can. So next Tuesday I'll be driving a truck all by myself.
Fun.
Up north. But I think that so I like the there's two early kills in the beginning, which you find out is one of the characters' sisters. And then there's kind of a lull, and I like how they filled it in with it where Junior Joad just ends up killing a vagrant that's like eating a rat in the middle of the fucking floor.
Yep.
I thought that was pretty cool. It kind of, broke things up a little bit. And I was really, I mentioned earlier that it's kind of a tropish movie, but they didn't follow the normal script of like the nice girl being the final girl. She's the first girl, almost, out of that group anyway.
I was pretty surprised,
and that's what perked me up in my seat the first time I saw it. I was like, oh, okay, this is now we're cooking with gas. Now we're getting somewhere interesting. So I thought that was pretty cool, and and most of the kills are pretty brutal. Gore in this is very good. I was surprised.
I think it's crazy how they had Toby barbed wire to a freaking barn for 45 minutes. Like, that's crazy. The whole movie. Movie, this fat kid's just freaking barbed wire to a fucking barn. Like, come on.
I thought he was the most likable character too, so I hated the fact that he wasn't there, like, having quotes and saying shit. But at the same time, I did like the idea that he was still in the movie, because I'm just like you said, like, every 15 minutes, I'm like, Toby's still in that barn. Wonder what he's doing right now.
One of the parts that, like, kind of had me scratch my head, though, was when... Okay, so now Toby is tied to the barn with barbed wire, and What's-Her-Face is killed. And then Wesley goes, like, he's like, oh, right, the mailbox said Joed or Jode or whatever. And then he knows about the tale, like the local sort of legend, the cannibal family and everything. And he waits until two of his friends are dead before he even brings it up. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, you knew this the whole time, and now two of your friends are dead, and you found a treasure trove of just dead things around the house. And now is the best time to mention that?
Yeah, it's like it took him walking into that room of skulls that he had to fucking figure that shit out. I'm like, how did you have this much detailed information? Like, wouldn't you already have the name Jode burnt in your skull? Like, don't fucking go there. Like, I'd know the fucking coordinates to that place, and I'd be like, oh, our bus is passing by that? No, fuck that. Take a different route, because the Jodes live there. But no, he just forgot, and then just had a sudden revelation.
Two of the other hang-ups that I have with this movie is, number one, the lighting throughout the entire movie was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So unless it was daylight hours, you can barely see anything. Now, I get the concept of, like, oh, it's nighttime, and the movie's called Lost After Dark, so you have to assume it's all most of it taking place at night after sunset. But I can't be. It's almost like pitch blackness. You can't even see as the person watching it. You can fuck with my imagination a little bit, but I still have to see what's going on in order to enjoy it. So that's one of the technical problems I have with it. Also, there's a part with that part, the reel missing, that it was like in the middle of the movie where what the fuck was that about? Where did that come from? That was stupid.
It was a forced homage.
That was dumb.
And I agree with that because I felt like that was where the friend, I forgot her fucking name. Well, that's where the friend was like caught in a bear trap, and
Adrian.
The dude was like, Adrian was like right, and then Junior Jode is like right on top of her, and that's where it cuts, and then fast forward, and she falls out of a fucking tree, and I'm like, man, I really would have liked some exposition on that. I want to know how the fuck she got away, because that's kind of the fun of these movies, even if they're going to make it something implausible, like she's going to hit him with a branch or a twig in his leg and he's going to fall over, and then she's going to magically like rip open a bear cage, all 80 pounds of her. I mean, a bear cage, a fucking bear trap. And I felt like I was like, that was a cheap fucking way to do that.
Yeah, but if she would like to stab him in the eye with a stick or something,
yeah,
then
that kind of
that is like, that gets you rooting for her again. You know
exactly.
what I mean? That gives you the opportunity to to not root. A lot of times we end up rooting for the slasher, especially as if it's a movie that sort of goes on and has like several sequels. By the time you get to Freddy 4, or Nightmare 4, you're rooting for Freddy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But the first couple you're not. And that's easily done because like the characters are much better developed always in the first one. Almost always, not necessarily, but almost always, than they are in the sequels that follow. So I really didn't like that thing. The real missing thing.
I feel like the only way the real missing thing worked ever was in the Gremlins movies, because you hear him in the background chuckling.
Yeah.
Right. Well played. There was some excellent eyeball gore though. Keep in mind, this is 2015. We can't go too much. Can't give too much away. But if you're into eyeball gore, this ranks pretty high. I would rank the eyeball gore itself probably a 4 out of 5. If I had to.
Yeah, I was impressed by that. Absolutely.
Eyeball gore is my least favorite thing ever.
I love eyeball gore.
Oh, I hate it.
I do too. I love it.
Oh, I hate it. I saw Demolition Man. Wesley Snipes puts that eyeball on that pen and does the scan thing. Scarred for life. I was like 9 years old.
Okay, so I hate when animals get killed, and there's a brutal animal kill in this.
Oh.
And it's brutal because
yeah.
It's the one girl. It's Heather's, one of the characters' pets. It's her little pet dog, and it's the saddest thing ever. And I can't. I realize now that I'm like looking at my notes, and I can't give any more away after that, because we'll talk.
She has no remorse about it though. Like, I mean, like, she just does it, and like she just kind of looks at him like, done, you know.
And Johnny hates the dog. Her boyfriend Johnny hated the dog, and then she does it, and he's like, "I can't believe you just did that!" Like, and it's like it's like he took a seat in the audience, and he's like, "Oh my god," you know.
And that's a missed opportunity almost because he was painted as such a fucking chode that I was expecting him to do some sort of celebration, and the fact that I guess they gave him the human moment at that moment, I was like, man, that just ruins this whole scene, because after some shit like that, I need to have a laugh or something, because that was not fun.
And you get a laugh right away. Almost right away.
Oh yeah, it's true, you do.
One of the notes that I wrote down is that it reminded me a lot of the remake of My Bloody Valentine, in that The story itself wasn't very invigorating, but the gore was over the top great. I was really impressed by that. And I think that's the big standout for the, other than it paying homage to the slasher films that came before it and the 80s at the same time. It also just did an excellent job on gore, an excellent job on death, like very creative, like trying to find creative ways to kill these fucking kids that maybe we as the viewer haven't seen very often. So I thought that was pretty cool, and that deserves a tip of the old hat.
I agree.
So let's go round table on this one. Brett, what's your rating on this? Unless you have a conspiracy crawl space for this.
I don't, unfortunately, for this episode. These movies are pretty straightforward.
Okay.
I couldn't. I tried to come up with one, but I was like, nah, I'd be grasping for fucking straws. So, and it went nothing funny either, nothing stupidly funny. So, I gave up on this episode for one. But I gave it a 2 out of 5. The nostalgia and the homage was good. I feel like a lot of other movies have done it a shit ton better. Like you said, the gore was fantastic. I enjoyed the characters that like Toby and of course Mr. C, Robert Patrick, I thought was great. And like you said before, I like the switch up on the protagonist, who you assign mentally as the protagonist of the story, being one of the first ones that gets bit off. But in the end, it was very underwhelming. Not a lot of entertainment, not a lot of good, funny quotes, a nondescript killer. So I landed at 2.
Bub.
I gave it a 1. I didn't really like it that much, and all that was going through my mind the whole time was, how do you steal a school bus from the T-1000? Who would fucking do that? That's stupid. You know, like, and I'm like waiting for him, like the whole movie. That's all I thought. And then that main character, her dad, totally looked like Ned Flanders. He had a very Ned Flanders feel.
He did look like Ned Flanders.
He also looked like he was maybe 2 or 3 years older than she was.
I'm telling you, right? He wasn't that old. And like when they got to the school bus, like Mr. C and the dad, I was ready for him to be like, Oakley dokley. Like, you know, like, we gotta save these kids.
I like the part where I like the fact that he's spending Friday night cleaning his gun.
Yeah.
And then
T-1000 puts it together like effortlessly.
Yeah. That's how you get shot in somebody else's house. Anyway, I went with the 2.5. I think I'm surprised because I'm usually not the one that's most generous. But look, it's a movie I was happy to watch a second time for this episode, and I enjoyed the tropes. I like how they went in a totally different direction with it. This was Ian Kestner's first feature-length film, so I'd be interested to see what comes next for him because he hasn't done anything next. So I encourage everybody to watch it because I feel like it's one of those movies, as you can see between the three of us, that you're just going to get a much different reaction from one person to the next. So I thought it was fun. It's just a fun movie. It's a fun, silly movie. So we're going to take a tiny little break, and the Bride of Bloodbath is going to say some words, and we will be right back.
You are listening to Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray. We are dedicated to bringing you the show across your favorite medium. We can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and YouTube. Please send all suggestions to bloodgutsandbluray@gmail.com. Thank you for listening.
I have seen the future of horror. His name is Clive Barker. beyond any terror you have imagined. A nightmare.
No.
Unlike anything you have witnessed, is born. Because within these walls, the unholy is unleashed. Hellraiser, a film by Clive Barker.
We'll tear your soul apart.
All right, and we're back to talk about what I consider to be a fucking classic. Hellraiser, directed by the incredible Clive Barker, based on his novella, The Hellbound Heart. Came out in 1987. 6 people die. There's a naughty count of 1. The budget was $1 million, and it garnered just south of $20 million. Not bad for your debut, your directorial debut. Brett, do what you do, and do it well.
I hope I do. So, Julia and Larry are moving into the home of their old home of their family that their brother had misused for a while, to try and repair what seems to be a pretty shattered marriage, and which turns out to be true because the wife in question had slept with her husband's brother within, like, it seems pretty quickly after the marriage. Still in love with this man who has actually come across a mysterious cube that allowed him to transport himself to a different part of hell. He has come back. Frank has come back through blood, and has convinced Julia to go out and kill random men to bring himself back to life, all the while escaping the Cenobites, creatures from another dimension who have such lust for carnal pleasure that they know no difference between pain or pleasure. So all the while, the movie becomes a lot more about Larry's daughter and trying to stop this mad woman from bringing about unleashing a whole type of hell that would destroy the world.
Larry's daughter is a fucking smoke show.
Oh, yep. God, yeah.
Can I get an amen?
Oh, yeah.
Yay, fucking man.
Wow. Golly. She is really good looking. They were actually going to call this movie, well, obviously, they were thinking about calling it Hellbound Heart, which makes sense. That's what the novel was called. But then they landed somehow on the title of Sadomasochists from the Grave.
I saw that. That's awesome.
That would have been great.
Which is awesome. But of course, Barker had a lot of problems with the MPAA. The sex scenes, he wanted to be much racier. They had a problem. There was I guess a part where Julia gets like spanked, and they kind of made her take that out, or made him take that out. But so real quick, Pinhead is just like a sight to behold. What? He's terrifying. He scared the shit out of me as a kid.
The makeup in this movie is so good.
It's fucking good.
Ridiculous.
I don't even know. Good. How do you even dream that up? All the Cenobites are just great examples of like the imagination that Clive Barker has.
I can't even name them, but I the fucking, I think they call him like the Chatterer. Who's the one that has like
Chatterbox?
Yeah,
Chatterbox is. I was like, if I like, he's still fucking creepy, like, and just absolutely disturbing. And Vagina Neck is no fucking different. Like, they're just so well done.
These movies scared the fuck out of me as a kid.
Oh yeah,
they terrified. They really, really scared me because they were just so.
I never saw them as a kid. If I saw them as a kid, I wouldn't be. I wouldn't fucking sleep.
Hellraiser is because. When did I see this? I think I probably saw it when I was like, I'd say like 13 or 14, and It was like and then they around that time. So I saw it. I rented it, or my neighbor rented it or something. Watched it with him, and then I feel like the year after that, they played like the first 3. They played like the obviously edited versions on television, like on Halloween night. And then ever since then, it's like a Halloween staple. I watch it every year. It's like a tradition, so that's why I was like really stoked to talk about it. I think next year we'll probably talk about 2. That'd be fun. Revisit Pinhead and what have you, but yeah, they just scared the fucking shit out of me. And like I guess in the script, he's not called Pinhead. Those are all nicknames of the crew, like Butterball and Chatterbox and Pinhead and stuff. Those are all nicknames. But it took 6 hours of makeup each day to get Doug Bradbury like ready in front of the camera. 6 fucking hours, and contact lenses were.
Well, I mean, the hours were well spent, because this shit stands up today, and I don't think it'll ever like the fear factor of the Cenobites. I don't think that will ever dissipate, because they are fucking disturbing the second they come out. They're there, like, they don't have to say anything. They don't have to make scary faces. They just have this blank look on their fucking faces, and that's enough. You're just like, fuck.
And his voice is like perfect for it too. That's the other thing.
Oh, God,
like
yeah.
it sounds like a creepy priest. You know what I mean? Like let us pray. Like that.
Isn't that what they call? They initially called them. Wasn't he like the preacher or the pastor or something?
Priest. What I like about the Hellraiser films, but especially this one in particular, is that Barker seemed to effortlessly blend the theatrical storytelling elements of his Hammer film predecessors with contemporary gore and repulsion that was being churned out in the 80s. It was a extremely ambitious film with the makeup and the shooting and the way all that was done, and it came out so good. It's hard to imagine that this was just $1 million to make, because it feels like a multi-million-dollar picture.
But yeah, I mean, especially like you're talking about makeup, like the progression of Frank is fantastic. Other than the janky, like him coming out of the blood scene, which is obviously a product of the time, Frank's progression is just awesome.
Oh, it's crazy. I'm telling you, I love when he's like, I might need 1 or maybe 2 more people, to get my full thing going. Maybe just bring me 1 more or 2 more.
I love the part where he starts forming from the floor. I thought that was awesome. It's amazing in its grotesqueness.
It is pretty gross. It's a little old for its time, obviously. I mean, sure. But it's still good.
Any real issue I have with this film, though, it's not with the Cenobites at all. It's with the other characters. They're not interesting in any way. And that's probably due to the fact that the actors playing them are incredibly boring. So, but you get what you pay for, and you pay what you can afford.
Yep.
And that's what they got. So, it's not something I don't think it definitely doesn't make the film a deal breaker at all, because you're just waiting in between, moments of just dread and body horror. And it's like a David Cronenberg film,
Yeah, I really would have liked to have hated Julia more, and I agree with you on that, because she's a fucking 2-timing hussy, and obviously married the wrong man of her dreams, but at the same time, like you said, she was boring. She's luring random men from bars home so that her undead lover can kill them. She just wasn't interesting enough to really want to hate. I only had to hate her on her actions alone. I would have liked to have seen her a little more
conniving,
scumbag.
Yeah,
conniving. Yes, yeah, exactly. A little more conniving.
A conniving strumpet.
A strumpet. Fucking harlot.
I'm really disappointed with myself that I didn't take the time to read the novella. I still haven't read it yet. It's on my like Kindle wish list right now, but it may have put some more dog in the fight for me as far as the characters go. But like I said, the gore and the sheer dread of Hellraiser immediately make up for it, and they put Clive Barker in the same category as like Dario Argento and Lucio Fulci. Plus, his ability to tell a good story. I mean, the story itself is very good. It was an easy, for when you're doing your synopsis, it's an easy story to understand. It's in some way, shape, or form, we've all been there. We've all had, everybody's had rough or weird relationships, or you're just going through moments where you're on the you're at the bottom of the Ferris wheel and you're waiting to get back on the top of it. Yeah. So
it doesn't require a lot of backstory, because you can project your own past into these characters and kind of form your own past of what these characters were like, because Larry's no fucking angel either.
No, he's kind of a douche.
He's kind of a douche. He looks like a young Vince McMahon. Like, you just immediately don't like him when you see him.
You can go to hell. I love when he says
and
that.
He's so fucking awkward, like in the beginning at the dinner table when she's like, I don't feel good. And he's like, you're gonna go to bed? Oh, okay, cool. I'm gonna keep partying. Kind of attitude. I'm like, this guy's kind of a douche. But obviously, Kirsty is just lovable. So.
Oh yeah, when she's wearing her little like British two-tone ska hat with her hair tied. Ooh, she is something.
She's hot. She's extremely hot without having to be promiscuously hot.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I love when she's like covered in blood running past the nuns. Yeah. That was great.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Totally adds to her girl next door image. Loved it. The bug-eating homeless guy has always been a focal point of creepiness for me, though.
Mm-hmm.
And and unfortunately, when I see homeless people, I think of that. I've always thought of that. It's terrible, and I usually take my guilt and give them whatever change I have.
How homeless are you? Do you eat crickets?
Have you eaten a cricket yet?
Is that beyond you?
Eat this cricket for
$1.
For 45 cents.
Oh, that's terrible.
I've never done that. I would never make anybody do that. There's a lot of wildlife in this movie too, which I think adds to the creepiness of it. I mean, there's rats and maggots and bugs, and then you have, I made the David Cronenberg comparison before, but I think in a lot of ways, especially with it's almost like it's like a David Cronenberg film in reverse, like The Fly, where Jeff Goldblum is coming apart. Frank is being put back together, and it's just stomach-churning masterwork of a fucking nightmare. It's really what it is. The Cenobites, they look like my worst nightmares. All of them. Butterball, Chatterbox, Pinhead, the other one. The female one. Just because the makeup, I think, is so good. And most of them were supposed to have like more lines, but the makeup for them was so extensive that it was like difficult for them to talk, which I think is wild. And of course, like, Pinhead has one of the most memorable lines in any horror movie ever, which is like, "No tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering."
Yes, it's so awesome.
It's so awesome.
Best fucking quote. So good.
Oh, no tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering.
We have such sights to show you.
I like definitely one of the things I want to talk about in this movie is that I like the fact that how fucking scary they are, but also at the same time, they're not really the enemy in this movie. their whole thing is that you come seeking to them when pleasure has become non-existent, for them to take you to another plane of suffering and pleasure. So what's funny about them is that really Frank is the main bad guy in this movie, and they're just kind of like doing their fucking job, and that's what just makes them so awesome, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, they're like interdimensional beings.
Yep.
That they're like on the box art it says some consider him a demon, others consider him an angel, but he'll tear you apart.
I love that.
Yeah, that's so great.
Oh yeah, it's so good. I'm telling you. I love how they're just like, no, we can't go back without you. We need to go back with someone.
Yeah, because they're trying to get Kirsty, because she opens the box, and she's like, but my Uncle Frank. And Frank who?
Yeah, that it was. They're really interesting characters. And, we alluded to it earlier. I mean, this is one of those movies you kind of root for them like right off the bat. Like I just was like, yeah, I kind of want to see them fucking kill everybody, torture everybody, and yeah, that's cool with me.
It's so the actress who played Julia actually hates horror movies.
Yep.
And when she saw this movie for the first time at the premiere, she had to leave after 10 minutes. She's never seen the full thing. I think that's crazy.
That's great.
That just goes to show what a great job he did. Clive, who is in really bad health right now. And, karma's a real thing. I like to put out my good wishes to him because I'd love to see him get better and continue to make movies. He's not an old man. He's still a fairly young guy. I mean, he's in either his late 50s or his early 60s, so I do want to see him get better, but he's a writer, he's a painter, he's a director, I think he makes music too, so he's just like he's just like an artist in every way, shape, or form. And
he directed actually a fair amount of video games too.
Yeah.
A few of them with his name on, like I think there's like Clive Barker's Undying, and there was a couple of them.
And he's always had the unfortunate experience of getting fucked over in the editing room. And at some point we're going to talk about Nightbreed, and I want to talk about, and one of the things I want to do is I want to watch the original cut and the director's cut and kind of go through both of them, because they're two completely different movies. And I've only ever seen that with one other movie, and that is, it's a Mario Bava film from the 70s. It's called Lisa and the Devil. And that movie is the one that he considers many people consider it like a masterpiece of his. I don't think it's that great, but they made a movie that was even worse to capitalize on the Exorcist craze, and they call it The House of Exorcism, and it is one of the worst pieces of shit that you've ever seen in your life. It's so terrible. Nightbreed, they did the same thing, so they put out this cut that got panned across the board, and now the director's cut, you can get it on Shudder, you can get it on Netflix. The director's cut is out, and it's getting amazing reviews. So I would definitely love to talk about a movie like that at some point. Nightbreed. So the director's cut is really good. I watched it a couple weeks ago, and it's really, really good. So filming in the house actually sort of forced him to get a little weird with the camera. I mean, it was so narrow, I guess, that he all the singular shots of people are from one angle, where in most movies they do them from multiple angles, but it just was impossible. There was just no place to put him. So I think with all the circumstances included, he just did a fantastic job all the way around. Great movie to cut your teeth on. I think it's universally accepted as a fantastic, ambitious film. So let's start the ratings. Brett, you go first.
For this movie, I kind of bounced around a bit in the upper tier, and I kind of landed on a 4 out of 5. I loved this movie. I highly enjoyed it. The only knocks I really had on it is what we discussed. I felt like if the characters were a little more fleshed out and a little more unlikable, I would have felt great pleasure in watching that bitch get fucking quote unquote accidentally stabbed. But extremely great movie. Definitely want to call it a classic. I'll give it a 4 out of 5.
Bub.
I give it a 4.5. You know what? I love this movie. You know, the only thing that, like, the first time I saw it, I'm like, hell yeah, Pinhead. And, like, I thought he was going to be in a lot more of the movie. The Cenobites aren't in it as much as you think they would be, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, they don't kick in towards the end. And, I mean, when you do see him, I mean, throughout the whole movie, you might maybe see him 15 minutes, you know, right?
Yeah.
Would you say?
Yeah.
Agreed.
I mean, which is cool. I just wish they would have been there more, you know?
Sure. And they are in the sequel. I mean, with, like, take a movie like Nightmare on Elm Street. Freddy Krueger does not have that much screen time. It's a long movie, and he's not in it very often. So, you know. But I see your point. I mean, your point's well taken.
Yeah. The only other point too is, you know, I was reading they ran out of money towards the end of this movie, you know, and like when Kirsty's like, you know, closing the box and like, you know, sending them back, that whole orange lightning thing, like it's terrible, you know.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It's something I'm willing to overlook, though.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I gave it a 4.5. I love the movie, but you know, like you said, he did what he had to work with. You know, he made it great.
I got this as a hard 4. I think it's an amazing directorial debut, and like I said, I mean, Pinhead still scares me. Not in a way that I can't watch it, but I'm like just in awe of it. I'm in such awe every time I see him on screen and hear his voice that it just takes me back to being a, you know, young teenager watching it for the first time and being like, what in the actual fuck is happening right now? So
such discomfort. Even in his silence, he's just unsettling.
Yeah, unsettling. Unsettling is the dread, and just dread.
Yep.
I don't use that word often because it's not like in my vernacular. I guess it's not my lexicon. It's not a word but like that's the only thing I can think of. Just sheer and utter dread.
Yep.
So, well, this was kind of a short episode, but I think we needed a short episode. So, because our last few have just been. We're climbing mountains, basically.
Yeah.
So next week is going to be the final episode of our Halloween countdown. It will be coming to you very, very, very early on Sunday morning. If I have to stay up all night to get it done, I will. I promise. So hit us up on our social media. And until then, toodaloo.
Good evening.
Jesus wept.
Thank you for listening to Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray. Written and hosted by Bloodbath, Bub, and Brett 667. Edited and produced by Bloodbath. Music has been graciously provided by the Slasher Film Festival Strategy and Nightbirds. Artwork and logo have been provided by Bub. Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray is available on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and YouTube. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, as well as @BloodGutsBluray on Twitter, @BloodGutsandBluray on Instagram, and visit our Tumblr page by going to bloodgutsandbluray.tumblr.com. For any questions regarding the show, advertising, or anything else, please send an email to bloodgutsandbluray@gmail.com. Thanks again. Get possessed.